Hi, this is Joe again with another movie review. This time we'll be discussing the Major League movie series. And the first movie came out in 1989, and of course now we're in 2014, and yes, it's 25 years old already. It is the 25th anniversary year. Plus, the first two films pretty much saw almost the same cast of characters. The first movie stars Tom Berenger, of course, from movie Platoon, which is, in my opinion, the worst movie that ever won the Academy Award for Best Picture. But you also have Charlie Sheen, who was so normal. You had Corbin Burnson. You had Morgan Wynn, who plays the owner of the team. You also have one of the first and the first movie of Rene Russo and Wesley Snipes. Plus the guy who steals the movie, and that is Bob Uecker. Great seats, eh, buddy? Of course, what the first movie is about, like I said, came out in 1989, and it's about Morgan Wynn, who is the owner of the team. And of course, in the beginning of the film, excuse me, the science is bothering me. The opening sequences shows how badly since 1954 that the Indians never won the pennant since the 1954 team. So 35 years later, the new owner of the team, Morgan Wynn, who inherited the team from her husband, who died of a heart attack, what she did was she conspired to have a team or assemble a team that she would be bad enough so that she could move the team to Miami. And of course, she hires a lot of guys with a lot of rejects or guys who are past their prime. And of course, there's like one or two holdovers, Harris was like the veteran pitcher. Of course, you have Corbin Burnson was the third baseman on the team. Those were the only two real holdovers from the year before. Everybody else was either new or someone from another team. Like Tom Berenger's character is supposed to be a veteran catcher who played with the Indians once before. But the last year or two was playing down in the Mexican League. And his former girlfriend, who almost became his wife, played with Rene Russo, who works and lives in Cleveland. And of course, a lot of the side movies, non-baseball scenes, centered on that particular storyline. Well, some of the other subplots was you had a character named Pedro Serrano, who was a voodoo guy. Defected from Cuba because he wanted religious freedom. His religion was voodoo. And going against Harris, because Harris is supposed to be like a born-again Christian guy, so you had those two religious conflicts going against each other. Plus, you also have a little bit of a rivalry going between Charlie Sheen and Corbin Burnson because the veteran player was banging on the rookie. And of course, he also had Tom Berenger, who on the field story was because he wants to play one more year and to possibly try and get a World Series ring. So you had all those little things going on, and then of course you had this other side note with the owner wanted to have a team play badly enough to move the team to Miami. And of course the GM says, "Remember, we can't do the for lease with the city." And I said, "Yeah, but if we have attendance below 600,000, I could move the team to Miami because they offered us to build a new stadium. And at that time, instead of having these stadiums that's not even 50,000 seat stadiums anymore in baseball, they offered us a $70,000 seat stadium with all these luxury boxes and everything else. So I says, boy, it's really a crazy idea. And of course, sure enough, the team was averaging 500. I thought most of the year, and of course, when the story came out, because they only tried to do every way possible to make the team as miserable as possible so they go out on the field and lose. Like instead of having these chores, airplanes when teams travel on a crappy plane that's like a reject from World War II or something that was like falling apart. And then after that, instead of making it worse, travel to each town by bus, by like a broken down Greyhound bus, and try to make it so miserable for these guys, and not make any repairs on the stadium and anything else. But then when the GM got tired of how the owner was treating the team, tells the manager, played by James Gammon, what, and I think he recently died, the guy who played the manager, of what the owner had in mind. And so of course they had a team meeting, and of course they decided to play all out, which of course they did, and they forced a one-game playoff with the Yankees. And of course, throughout the course of the movie, the Yankees have been killing the Indians. Particularly the home run hitter, I think it was like George Vukovich or Pete Vukovich, who was a former baseball player himself, used to cream the Charlie Sheen character. Of course, Charlie Sheen at first was called the Wild Thing because he used to throw wild, he used to throw high. And of course, like Bob Uecker, and of course, like I said, stole the movie. He would say stuff when Charlie Sheen threw his first pitch in Major Leagues, and Tom Berenger had to die for it. Of course, Bob Uecker said, just a bit outside. And of course, he would say other things like, we scored one run on one hit. That's all we scored was one goddamn hit. Of course, the other announcer says, you can't say goddamn on the air. He says, well, who cares? Nobody's listening anyway. So you have all this, all this stuff going on. Of course, every time Bob Uecker was on the air, or was on screen, he stole the movie with his antics. And because we all know how funny Bob Uecker can be, so he was stealing every scene that he was in through the whole film, which made the movie even funnier. And then you had, so when the manager tells the team, how they went. So they, like I said, they faced the one-game playoff. And of course, big shock, and I'll give it away, but the Indians do win naturally at the end of the film. And of course, that's how the first movie ended. Of course, a side note, the Vinny Russo's character goes back to being Tom Berenger's girlfriend at the end of the film. So you had that thing. That situation all taken out, straightened out by the end of the film. All these little subplots were settled by the end of the film. But then, for all you novices out there, this movie, not only the first two Major League movies, was not filmed in Cleveland. All the baseball scenes, well, there was one particular scene where it was filmed in Yankee Stadium. You could tell it was Yankee Stadium, but there was one particular sequence where most of the baseball scenes, including the one-game playoff, was filmed in Milwaukee. And Milwaukee County Stadium, which of course that stadium is not there anymore, it's like torn down by like 10 years later or so. But so that stadium was not there anymore, Milwaukee County Stadium. So a few years later, in like 2094, I think it was 94 and 95, and there was a new Major League movie came out called Major League 2. It's almost the same brand of characters, except they had a Japanese player, and of course this other player. I forgot the other player's name, but the sequel was lousy. It was lousy. And of course, Charlie Sheen's character gets involved with Allison Judy, who was his agent, to capitalize on him and try to get rid of that juvenile delinquent persona that Ricky Vaughn had in the first film. So now he grew his hair normal, without the famous buzz cut that he had. And of course, to But the movie, or the second movie, or the baseball piece was filmed in Camden Yards. And you had all this, crazy, all the players were fighting with each other. And the manager of the team, was played by James Gammon, had a heart, or his character had a heart attack. So the rest of the movie, he's in the hospital. And they decided to have the Tom Berenger character, because they felt that it was too old already at that point, not only in terms of the movie series, but in reality as well. They felt it was like too old to be playing. The same thing with Corbin Burnson. He was also too old already to be doing the baseball scenes. So he had Corbin Burnson as playing one of the owners. He bought the team from Morgan Rand's character. And of course, later on, Morgan Rand came back and bought his shares back, became the majority owner in the end of the film. And then you had the player who got traded from Cleveland because of being too much of a pain in the butt. And so, of course, Tom Berenger's character took over the team as manager from James Cameron's character. So you had all this stuff going on. But I felt that Major League 2 was just an unbridled mess from beginning to end, because they tried to almost pretty much copy the original film, and it didn't work out so good. Because you had in the first film you had Bob Uecker trying to steal all the scenes, and he did that very well. In the second one you had Randy Quaid as a die-hard Cleveland fan trying to steal the movie, and he didn't do nearly as good of a job as Bob Uecker did in the first film. So that film was just an unbridled disaster from beginning to end. So I didn't like the second one at all. The third movie, which took place in 1998, which was a completely different change. There's only maybe like two characters that brought back from the other two films, and it was Serrano and the Japanese player. I forgot the Japanese player's name, so please don't jump down my throat and call him the Japanese guy, because I don't remember the guy's name. And they brought him back for the third film, and also Bob Uecker for the third film. And the third movie was called Major League Back to the Minors. And the main character was Scott Bakula. And also you had Corbin Burnson in the third film as well. So they brought him back for the third movie. So you have so you had that scene. And it follows a minor league team throughout the throughout a season, and then at the end of the movie they play like the big league team or another minor league team at the end of the film as a kind of like an exhibition game or something. And I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't great. I think they're trying to reenact what trying to do in Bull Durham, where I follow a minor league team and have two players who used to play in the majors come back and play in the minors. That concept was kind of interesting to me. You see, they're trying to get back to the major leagues. That concept was interesting, because that's never really been explored in a baseball movie before. But Major League Back to the Minors, so it's kind of a disappointment. So if you ever seen that movie or catch it on YouTube or Netflix or something, you could tell that they tried very hard. The concept was alright, but the movie itself was to me was a complete bust. Like the second one. Now I heard stuff that Charlie Sheen is trying to push for a third film, or a fourth Major League movie, which I don't think is going to come out. I don't think it's going to. Yeah, maybe because of the 25th anniversary year this year. I think that's why Charlie Sheen was trying to get a movie out. But I don't think it's going to do any good. I don't think it's going to be any good at all. Because it's been a very long time that a baseball movie has been very successful. I think the last really successful baseball film was, I think, maybe League of Their Own. I made a boatload, which I previously did a review for. That one made a boatload of money. But that's why every baseball movie since then hasn't done that well in the box office. So that's my review of the Major League movies. Please check out my video, like it, and comment on it, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.